Hello everyone, my name is Susan Frank Anderson. I'm here to share a new book I've written called Divine Power Lines. This book is an amazing gift because it was inspired to me from exactly its title, Divine Power Lines. It has no resource references from the world because it really came through what was given to me to help everyone. What do I mean by help? Well, basically, this book casts a vision of what it means to live from an integrated self, mind, body, spirit. The whole self, or the self that's in unity and harmony within, has an inner core that vibrates from a frequency that really is divine and changes perception and mind. Our human self is limited. It does very well. We've evolved and advanced to quite a super stage of our being. But without the mind of God and without its leadership from the Spirit of God, overpowering and leading, we are limited. But with those powers, we are unstoppable. That's what this book is about. So, knowing your true identity that's cast from the mind that casts the plans for the entire universe will shift your perspective fast. And I am hoping that all of the work I present on the internet and social media is going to really be a source, a resource, a continual help and guidance for many people who cannot afford therapy. It gets expensive. And it is also a unique approach that I've been given because it is very integrated. All the schisms or divisions in life begin with a feeling of separation or discord. All of this conflict comes from within the core of each individual life. Simply knowing how to be in harmony and agreement with oneself changes the course of a life and its journey and puts them on a new path. And how each person perceives their life internally and externally will be transformed once they are in an integrated whole being in harmony with itself. Our life on earth is filled with schism that set up conflict and discord for our inner being. By the time most children are 6 or 7, they've learned the survival program for humans that is full of warning labels emanating from fear, obligation, guilt, and an inner sense of shame. Children are taught to think about things and use a mind that has to choose between things of right, wrong, good, bad, this, that, a never-ending storyline that confuses these little minds. But they are so drenched with it, it's almost impossible to get rid of it, even when it's tried later on in life, without some professional help. That's where I come in. All of these trainings are linear programs that have been used forever on this planet to conform to a world that needed them to survive. We're at a point now where they're not sustainable. Anything that uses the past to interpret the present and cast fear and worry onto the future is very limiting, and it's holding us down. This teaching of how to survive and just behave well in a world of confusion isn't working. All of this life is now appearing to be fine, but as we can see, it's starting to break apart, fall down. Systems are being exposed as far as corruption from this whole inner conflict set up by man and his making up his reality. When we dig deeper, we notice all the false impressions and limitations created for our reality and how things supposedly work. I say supposed because there's a giant gap in the truth of perception, its interpretation, and living from an authentic, real self. The bulk of my work as a professional teacher and clinical therapist has been to help people identify with the true centered image of themselves and others. It's been quite challenging to observe how relationships can fall apart simply from uniqueness in perception and perspective. Quarrels, conflicts are made up of fights that keep going from the feelings of misunderstanding, feeling invisible, not being heard, just driving the mind into some kind of gaslighting that doesn't even trust its own self or the one that has been promised or partnered up with them. Or even some adult children not trusting their parents, feeling, all kinds of trauma went on. They were just ruined by that. Okay, none of this is true except in the mind of the believer. So this goes on individually and collectively, and has as long as people believe the lie that other people make, keyword, make them. And then they fill in the blank. You make me mad. You make me frustrated. You make me this. You. That finger pointing of blame and shame is always projecting from an inner self that is not whole. It's in parts, or it wouldn't need to do that. So when you fill in the gap with any storyline you want to blame others or find fault in them, it's all the same. You are living in a lesser form of yourself that is split and divided against itself. And that house, as we know, will fall down. It's a good thing, because once you start to break apart, you can notice a way, a different way, a higher way, right within your own self that is in harmony. I've found a unique way for each person to process their individual inner conflicts and trauma while they integrate into a whole being centered from a true self that's connected to their divine power. It is my intent to show the human self is limited in its ideas and inner truth and needs the spiritual self to demonstrate and facilitate bringing conflicts into harmony and agreement. Is there a higher power involved in all of this? Yes, of course. You may call God and the Spirit of God that power of the Most High. Once inner differences at war within a split self come into alignment with the spirit of that human self, so they're in alignment with themselves, the false constructs, split thinking that create chasms of doubt when they are not in that alignment. And that is where the Spirit of God helps to repair and restore and renew. So the chaotic lifestyle that once drained energy using anxiety, fear, and worry starts to lessen its grip and its hold on that individual. Harmony within the self is essential for anyone to overcome their anxiety, fear, obligation, guilt bodies that are bonded to shame within, and the traumatic events of their past judgments. They are really a victim of their own judgment, if you want to think of it that way. We've all been in that ditch, and we need help to get out. The integrated being, full of healthy thoughts, unconditional love, and affection from the power of God, will have a will that matches its desires and can reset all the old programs to run from a most high power that is divine, contains a high observer that is above the consciousness of what most humans operate on, and connects all consciousness, whether that's subconscious, conscious, superconscious. All of the ego that once ran those or was ignorant of those starts to really melt in, if you will, or integrate or mix, so that the ears that hear, the touch one feels, and all of the senses are not run by the physical realm anymore. They're run from a spiritual, higher dimensional consciousness that really pulls us up, pulls our spirit up, and helps us overcome merely surviving. We actually move into the thriving and the succession progression. So once the false and adapted survivor self with all its ego temptations is realized, an awareness happens that loves the divine power lines, and nothing wants nothing, I repeat, nothing can stop or disempower the individual from developing a whole new self, because it's transparent, it's integrated, it's honest, living its life in truth, and it transcends the human self to a life of abundance. It is not only integrated, but it knows a new reality and becomes a co-creator with the real, true image of the Creator that made that being. So living in beingness is living in harmony and peace within oneself, and that is baseline, and allowing the ascension to happen from that spot. Thank you very much.